Love you so much.
I timed that perfect.
You
Yay!
did.
Hi, everybody. I was counting down when we started this, and I was like right in sync, and I didn't even mean to be in sync.
I
It
know. I was
pretty cool,
impressed.
huh?
I was like, how did you even know? It wasn't even showing. And then all of a sudden it showed. But anyways,
I didn't. I just was guessing and messing around, and
well, you're
I
pretty
nailed it.
spectacular. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
So, hey team, welcome back to Cash and Courage. I am Debbie Burns, your courage expert, and this guy next to
We
me.
never introduced ourselves, huh?
We don't, and I just figured maybe we should today.
Probably. Joe Burns, you're on my page here. But if you're watching YouTube, you got to know who we are. Like,
Maybe.
well, no, not that they have to know who we are, but like we have to let them know who we are because
Yes. Because
we
they
have like
probably don't know
we have
us.
you guys. We have this is episode 21, so we have 20 episodes out there where we have never yet said, "Hey, we're Joe and Debbie Burns."
I don't think we have.
Not once.
You don't need to know who we are, right? No, just kidding.
Talking.
Yeah. So anyway, I said I'm Debbie. I'm courage expert. What are you?
I'm
Who
Joe.
are you?
I'm the money master.
He's our cash guy in the house.
No, I guess with this brand it's Cash and Courage, so I'm the cash guy.
And I'm just going to say we're just an average, everyday couple doing really magical, epic things with our lives, leading what I call our happily epic after. And so we're just here sharing kind of behind the scenes insights, things that are coming up, things that we're noticing with our clients. We each run our own separate businesses. Joe helping people to, I don't want to say it is making more money, but it's like healing relationships with money so that you're not pushing it away.
Correct.
Right.
And the byproduct is making more money.
Yeah.
But people don't get that. So that's why I'm here.
Yep. And so I'm on the other side working with people in soul and mindset to help them have more courage to be their authentic self and pursue joy in whatever way that they see fit. So that's kind of a little bit about us and what we're here to do. I'm like, really, we're here to have fun. We're to have fun with you along the way and help you create your own happily epic after through cash and courage. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm like, now you know. Now we may go another 20 episodes without saying it
No,
again.
we should do this every time.
I know we should. We'll lock that down.
Lock it down.
So Joe, what are we talking about today?
We are not talking about chocolate mashed potatoes. Because we haven't done that yet.
I love that you called out the thing that you haven't done.
I know. It's
Feeling
cool, huh?
guilty much?
No, because you want to feed me the, like, guys, we looked at the recipe and the recipe sucks.
No, I think we should still do it. But here's the thing. I think this is what's really holding me back. And then we'll get, which is funny. Okay, no, I think that actually feeds into our conversation
Let's
of today.
talk about it.
I think the thing that's actually holding me back is the fact that I probably have to have a really clean kitchen in order to record us making and eating.
That's an interesting rule.
That is an
Because
interesting rule.
today we're talking all about rules. That's
Yeah.
what we're actually talking about, not chocolate mashed potatoes.
But it's funny how that feeds in there. We are talking about rules, and I specifically called it out. It's funny. Joe was typing the title. He's like, "What do you want to talk about?" I'm like, "What are the bullshit rules keeping you, right? That are you still living by? The ones that are keeping you from doing the things that you want to do in this world?" And
That's
he
not how I
typed it like,
typed it.
"What are the rules?" And I'm like, "You missed a word." And he's like, "No, I didn't."
I'm like, I translated it.
But I had to go back and add that in there because I want us to be very clear in identifying that they are bullshit rules. I don't want us to think that they're just these kind of things floating out here that aren't problematic, and maybe we'll get to them someday. Because what actually happened is Joe asked me before we got on the call, like, what's going on in your world over there, and what's kind of on your mind? And I'm like, oh my gosh, the fact that people are not pursuing their dreams, that they're not pursuing the thing that makes their heart sing, that for whatever reason they've decided here's the requirement list for them to finally be able to go over and do the thing that they actually want to be doing. And so people are living in,
Would you call that requirement list a set of rules?
I would call that requirement list a set of rules. I'm too old, that's a rule, to change my mind. I've already put this much time into XYZ, so I can't go over
Nobody's
here.
listening to me.
Nobody's-
showing up.
Right.
Right, so I can't do that because if nobody shows up, why am I even doing it?
XYZ doesn't get paid. Nobody makes money. Blah, 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 blah. There's all sorts of kind of rules. And I want to even come out of business for a second and just get a lot more personal about the rules that we have, even in our relationships and the kind of relationships that we need to put up with, for lack of a better term. For many, many years in my life, I've had someone in my life, a family member, that there was an unwritten rule in my family that this family member pretty much got to say whatever they wanted to say, and we all brushed it off as, oh, it's just so-and-so, no matter how unkind, no matter how ignorant the conversation was. Like, I remember this one time, this person came up to me and was like, I finally figured out why you're so fat. And I'm like, oh, really?
Do tell.
Yeah, like, I don't even know why I said do tell, but like, it was really, really help me understand. And they're like, you eat your food too fast. If you were just to slow down and eat it like 22 times.
You mean chew it 22 times?
Chew. Yeah, chew
Not eat it
22
times. That'd be a lot of
times.
times eating something.
Then you wouldn't be so fat. Like, and it sounds like a little silly, and but there's other things that go on with this person anyway. It finally came to a place over this last year of looking at our relationships and going, what actually serves us and what doesn't? Because let's be real, there are a lot of rules that we live by when it comes to the relationships that we interact with.
So many rules when we deal with people, when we deal with things, situations, right? Like we have all these unwritten rules that we've never ever challenged.
Especially, I would say, like within family.
Oh yeah, like we've been taught how to interact with the family, and you can't not. Like in my family, the unwritten rule was like every Saturday we worked outside in the yard with my dad.
You also had an unwritten rule for a long time that every Sunday we had dinner at mom and dad's.
Yeah.
Right? That is just what happened. And if you didn't follow the rules, there were issues.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy, right? And the life experience, and I don't think we'll get into that, but the life experience of what taught us that, hey, we can start changing those rules, in some cases was very dramatic, right? And some people might be like, wow, like you didn't get it until then.
Yeah, it was like
Right?
it was in our 30s. It took going through post-traumatic stress disorder and being on our own and all of the shenanigans that happen with that, like some really dark stuff and almost divorce, for us to look at it and go, maybe the way that we've been living is not the way we always have to live. Maybe the rules that they gave us are not the rules that we have to live by.
Like,
Because
what?
I know. It blows people's mind when I say this. Like I have a whole presentation that I do. Joe and I, we go around, we speak on different stages. But I have a whole presentation on living by your own set of rules that tends to blow people's minds and shake their foundations, because the belief is, I mean, the reason that we have these rules is because they show up as truth. They show up as in truth in our lives. Like this is just the way it is. And so we find ourselves constantly trying to adjust ourselves to fit in with truth.
Even when, can I put
Yes,
this?
please.
Even when it's uncomfortable, like on the inside, we'll feel like, oh, I don't like this, but the
Yeah.
rule says
I have to put
I
up
have
with
to
it.
do it, and
Right.
we must follow the rules, right? That's what we're taught as little ones.
Yeah, the rule says I have to take whatever this family member gives me. The rule says I have to be kind in return. The rule says I have to treat that unkindness as just silly ignorance, and that's just who they are. And so we just move
Let's go
on.
to like some more simple things too, because that gets kind of deep, right?
Yeah.
But the rule says we must cook this dish this way. The rules say we must shop and only buy these products.
Let me share an
Right?
example. There's a funny, like just a funny little story out there of someone who, she's making a roast. She's a newlywed. She's making roast for the first time. And she cuts off both ends of the roast, puts it in the pan to cook it. After a few times of doing this, her spouse finally asks her, babe, why do you cut off both ends of the roast? What's that all about? She goes, I don't know. That's what my mom always did. So she calls her mom. She's like, Mom, why do we cut off both ends of the roast before we cook it? And mom's like, well, I actually don't know. That's what my mom always did. So mom calls grandma and she goes, hey mom, why do we cut off both ends of the roast? And grandma's like, I don't know about you, but it didn't fit in my pan. So here we have an example of how some rules are passed down to us, or what you recently called inherited. We inherit certain beliefs, rules, or stories from the generations before us, regardless of why they started in the first place. So in this kind of funny little anecdote joke situation, mom just had a smaller pan, so she had to cut off the ends of the roast so it would fit in the pan, or grandma did. But then mom looks at it and goes, oh, we cut off the roast of the pan, not understanding why that began in the first place. And then she passes it down, and suddenly we're cooking in a very specific way because we think that's how it's supposed to be done. Okay, so those are inherited. What's the other kind of rule that we can get that happens?
The other kind?
Yeah. If it's not inherited, it's what?
Oh, we make it up ourselves.
We create it. And what do we create it based on, Joe?
Our experiences, right?
Absolutely.
What we've gone through. The other ones are created by, again, our experiences, but it's like what we've lived through to help us survive, right? That's where most of them come from.
Yeah.
Right? They kept us alive, so we're like, cool, we're alive, so this must be the way things are.
This is it.
And it's dangerous because it may have been required in that moment, but you're not who you were in that moment anymore. And so we need to reevaluate that, right? That's another one we got to reevaluate, because if not,
Yeah.
it's going to hold us back.
And the thing is these rules that are created or inferred. That's another way that we can say that. Meaning something was either said or done to us, or we watched it said or done to someone else. And we start forming these ideas of how the world works. And it's not just about keeping us maybe physically safe and alive, but it's also about keeping us alive in love. There are many rules in relationships around how we have to behave in order to be acceptable or loved by someone else. There are rules around whether or not we get to be full participants in the relationship, depending on how we show up. And we're not talking about being cruel or mean or having like being like, whatever, I can do whatever I want, I'm gonna go around and kill people. It's not what we're saying. Like, because we honestly believe you're good humans who have like a moral compass. But what we are talking about is showing up in a way, or being required to show up in a way that fits with other people's rules and definitions rather than your own. So it goes back to what you were talking about, is like we feel this dissonance inside of us because it doesn't feel comfortable. Either our boundaries are being tolerated or something's happening that's outside of our like moral compass, or we just don't align to it. And yet we find ourselves being silenced or silencing ourselves or hiding ourselves in order to be loved, acceptable, and in some cases not die. And we see that happening in the world around us right now. And even here's the thing, here's the big lie about following the rules in order to stay alive, is that there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that following the rules will keep you alive, that will keep you in love, that will keep you in acceptance, that will keep you in belonging. That's the falsehood or the fallacy of living by other people's rules, because they can still choose to act against you. So no matter how much I tolerate this individual inside of my family, no matter how much I've silenced myself or hidden parts of myself to be acceptable, this person still had the ability and used it to say unkind things to me or to make judgments about me, especially when I stop following the rules, or I decide that I've hit my toleration
Not
zone.
that you don't follow the rules, right? Because there's
Their rules. Not my
yeah, I would say
rules.
like, and this isn't like you're saying back in the beginning. Like, let's just clarify. This isn't about throwing out all the rules. This is about redefining what you want to live by and what you don't.
Right.
Right? Because the universe itself, right, the creation and people and society, we need what we could call rules, right, for order. Order
Or
is
agreements.
good. Or agreements, right?
Yeah.
But there needs to be some order. So mass chaos is not healthy.
And that's not what we're talking
No,
about.
but we're talking about disrupting what you're currently living by, so that then you can take a step back and be like, oh, do I like this or do I not like this?
And there's a difference between searching for mass chaos and searching for truth, like your truth,
Yeah.
real truth, the kind of truth that says other people don't get to hurt me in order for me to belong to them. Other people don't get to belittle me in order for me to be loved and accepted. And we can see this in our society right now with a lot of the hate crimes. And I'm just going to call that what it is. Like when we have our hate crimes out there, when we have, look at my communities of color who have supposedly played by the rules, right? There have been rules given to them in our society in America, rules that say you need to be quiet, you need to blend in, you need to not shake the boat, you need to accept the way the system is as the way the system is.
Let's be honest. If you're not white, then you're a second-class citizen. I mean, that's really the rule.
But you can't call it out a second-class citizen because white
then
people don't want to
everybody has come
accept that.
apart. Like,
Absolutely. But notice, even in playing by the rules, even those who do play by the rules, there are countless examples of men and women of color who have lost their lives, their
Yeah.
physical lives, even playing by the rules. There are people who have lost love, acceptance, and belonging, even when playing by the rules, on all sides of the fence, because rules don't just apply, or these false rules that we tend to live by don't only apply to one group or one subsection of humanity. All of us at every level are living by an unwritten set of rules that at some point in time we decided were truth,
Yep.
whether inherited or created, whether we just got it from the culture in our family or we experienced it or saw it happen to somebody else. Oh, look, they spoke up, they got taken to town. If I speak up, I'll
Same
get taken
thing.
to
So
town,
I'm
so
just
I'm
not
not
gonna
going
do
to
it. I'm
speak
just
up,
gonna like, nope.
right? But those are the kind of rules that are keeping us from owning our true authenticity and living in fulfillment. I cannot live as my full authentic self and also allow someone to belittle me for being in that full authentic self. Something has to give. And most of the time, it's our authenticity.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's our
Well, we don't want
dreams.
we don't want the conflict, right? So we'll just back down. We'll be like, no, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just gonna like let it slide.
And
Or
maybe
no, I don't
yeah,
like. It's not enough inside of us, or we're lacking. Like we're afraid we're gonna get kicked out, or that belonging piece. We're like, oh, I can tolerate this. I understand what's going on, so I can like
right.
be the bigger person and just deal with it.
It's
But
the whole the devil
that
you know
creates
versus the devil you
it does,
don't,
and that
right?
creates a
Like,
whole different like that's a whole different issue. But we got to be
but
careful and
connected.
watch. It's definitely connected,
Yeah.
and we got to watch for it. We got to pay attention to it because if we don't, then we're going to continue to feel that dissonance, like you're saying
Yeah.
inside, and at some point we're going to get angry about it, and then we're going to, whenever we go past that toleration zone, and we are always going to burn out or we're going to blow up, and it's not pretty. So we got to be careful.
We got to watch for it because here's the reality. You are an incredible human being. And as an incredible human being, as a unique, gifted, talented, whole, complete, special, amazing, magical, etc., 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 human, which you didn't have to earn and you don't have to prove, by being the human you are deserving and worthy of love, of belonging, of acceptance as you are. And if your relationships have requirements, don't be too loud, don't be too opinionated, don't be like this, don't be like that, do be like this, blah, blah, blah. Any of those things, allow me to walk all over you, allow me to judge you, allow me. Those are not real relationships. Because the minute you step outside of their box, you are pushed into the cold. If you want authentic, powerful, fulfilled living, then we've got to be willing to look at the rules that we're living by, to challenge those rules that we're living by.
Some of them you might like. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I like that rule. And that's okay.
Yep.
Some of them you're like, why am I doing this?
Right. So can I give you a kind of a little example? One of the rules that I used to live by, because mom and dad always said it, was if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But can we just sit back for a
That
second
rule
and look at
is
how,
like gone through everywhere, and that's just like a really messed up rule.
because think about it. If you don't have, is accusing someone or calling them out for being a predator or being unkind or being an asshole, that's not really nice, right? Like it's not a really nice thing to say that, hey, you're a pedophile. That doesn't feel nice to the other person, even if it's true. Okay. So we raise all of our children or many of our children in this idea that if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, which means, and that can kind of dovetail with the like, don't be a tattletale. But we get these two seemingly innocent rules that raise a whole generation to go, I cannot speak my truth. I cannot call out when someone is harming me.
Yep.
I cannot tell them to stop. I cannot tell anybody else what's going on, right? So in adulthood, in my 30s, here I am looking at the rules going, oh my gosh, this one is really damaging and has been very damaging to my history. I mean, just quick history. I mean, there's a lot of abuse of the full spectrum in my history that was never shared and talked about, that there was never an answer to when I was young because I didn't have something nice to say. And I shouldn't be tattletaling. Okay.
Well, look at that. I mean, again, like you said, that's the perfect example, right? Until you didn't even start challenging them until your 30s, till you
Yeah.
had basically nothing left to lose, and you're like, well, maybe it's time I start looking at this.
That's where it was. I
Right.
mean, that's the reality is I got down to in my post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and all of that. I got to a place where I was like, do I even belong on this planet anymore? And when you start looking at, do I stay or do I go? Like, literally physically on this planet, it gives you a lot of space to go,
That's
why do I want to leave
It
again?
starts giving you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can start throwing those out. So that's kind of the extreme example.
That is the extreme. But rewriting that rule, let's talk about rewriting that rule, because there were some tenets in there that I actually really appreciated. And so my new rule, as I played with it over time, has become speak truth with kindness. I try not to call people names. I fail sometimes. I try not to throw hate or shade people's way. I still fail sometimes.
Hey,
I'm human.
I mean,
I'm working on
human.
it.
We're going to mess up, right? And we got to give ourselves grace for that.
But the reality is I really work hard to speak truth with as much kindness as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because my boundaries matter. My person matters. My hope, my dreams, my inner child, my inner highest self, all of those things matter. And when those things matter to me, I also recognize that those things matter to the people around me. That Joe also has dreams, that Joe also has an inner child, that he also has a highest self, that there are things going on in his world that matter to him, as well as things mattering to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have space for both. And we've talked about that.
Yeah,
We've talked about that.
We've talked about that. So I think this week, I mean, it was really just about, start challenging your rules. And now you don't got to go out there and be mean and evil to other people to be like, well, my rules changed, so blah, blah, blah. Just like, but start playing with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And just so you know, I don't think assertive is mean. Like, I don't think there's a difference between no and no, your mother effing a-hole of.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a difference.
Whatever works for you is what I'm
Yeah.
going to say. But
I just want to call that out because sometimes people will go, oh, you spoke your truth to me and you were being mean. And it's like, nah.
It's like, nah, I just holding the boundary.
No.
There's a difference.
Me identifying that white supremacy still has roots in almost every, if not every system within America, that's not mean. That's just truth. Now, what are we going to do about it? You know what I mean? So someone speaking up and saying, hey, there's something we need to look at here. There's rules we're being required to live by that are harming entire communities of people.
Yeah.
Okay? We got to look at that. We got to make some changes
scale it back
with
a
that.
little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like, I totally love
These
that.
are rules on all these different
Yeah, it
levels.
is.
Okay? So
Well,
that's a very big societal rule. There's
Yeah.
also the personal.
And that's where I want to pull it back so we can take so they can take some actionable steps, right?
Actually, yes. I
So
understand.
you can take actionable steps to like start changing if you want, right? That's the goal, right?
The goal is to create a life you fucking love.
That's
Joe was like, oh my gosh, you're going to be no filter Deb today, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, I am. That's the goal, to create a life that you are so in love with that, like, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing because you are living it up and loving it over here.
Yep.
Over here. So let's give him some.
First step. What do we do?
Identify the rules that you're living by. Identify them.
That doesn't have to be every single one. Like,
No.
that's so surmountable. Take like 2 or 3 things.
Pick a category of your life. It could be relationships. It could be family relationships. It could be
food. It could be working out. It could be your business life. It could be your hobby life. Whatever you want. Like,
and
just
see if
pick
you
one.
can look at that category and go, what are the rules that I'm living by here? What am I requiring myself? Ladies, what rules are you living by as a woman? Who told you what woman looked like and how you had to be in order to be a quote unquote proper or acceptable woman? Men, what rules were you given?
Because there's a lot of
toxic
personalities out there.
or toxic truth about what it is
that's not
to be
healthy
an
for men,
individual.
right?
No.
I mean, look at men. I mean,
You can't
we
cry.
could go on all day about different ones.
There's
right?
so many. Just
pick that
one.
category, right? Pick one, because it's a great place to start, and then just
Yeah.
start looking at a few of them and being like, "Do I like this or not?"
Yeah, so challenge it.
But challenge.
Is
if you
it
ask
really true?
why do I do this?
And if you need to, there's Google. There's Google. I had someone challenge me once that women were better children taker carers, nurturers, because of a hormone produced during breastfeeding. But if you go do your research, you'll find that same hormone that's produced during breastfeeding can be produced in men when they get on the floor and play with their children. So this whole idea that this person was living by, that this is a rule that women take care of babies and men do something else or can't take care of babies, that's not real. It's not. And there's science, if you want it, to back it up. But in that case, I'm like, Men and women both make babies. Men and women can both take care of babies.
So, okay, so we have identify the rule, identify the category of the rules you
Yeah.
want to start looking at. Okay, what's next after that? Once they've identified that, what do they
Category, identified rule. Then the next one was challenge the rule.
do? Okay.
Challenge it.
So
Is
challenge
it true?
They're like, I don't like that one. That one's getting out of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like that one, or I like pieces of that one. How to say like, I like pieces of this one, but not all of it. What can they do?
Then you rewrite it. You rewrite it to align with what you desire. Okay. So again, I think you have to challenge all of them.
Well, I
even
believe
the ones
that.
that you think are true.
Well, I believe that.
Even the ones that you like, challenge it. Is there anything else in that rule that you're missing? Any way that rule is beneficial to you but harming others? Like, look at it. But then you get down into, you're right, and the third step is, am I keeping it? Am I tossing it? Am I rewriting it? That's that third. So we've identified, we've challenged, and then we decide what to do with it. Keep, toss. It's like hoarders, right? They have those like tarps out there, the keep, the toss, and the give away.
It's true.
Except instead of giving away, you're rewriting it to say, I'm going to keep these pieces, but not those pieces. And I'm going to make it something that's powerful for me, like speak truth with kindness. That's what we're looking at in rewriting the rules. If you really want to live a life that is exciting and satiating and fulfilling and all the things that you could have ever dreamed of and more, then I'm going to highly encourage you to come back and look at the bullshit rules that you're living by. Challenge them. Rewrite the ones that don't serve you. Get rid of the ones that are just straight up wrong. Like, let them go.
Yeah.
To tie off my story, I finally, with this individual, set my boundary. Kindly. Very kindly. And actually, I had already set the boundary. I just reminded them of the boundary. And their response to me when my boundary came up and I said, no, thank you.
You weren't even mean either.
I wasn't
She wasn't
mean.
mean. She was just like, no, this is not what we're doing.
Right. The response was, well, have a wonderful life.
It's like, what?
Have a wonderful life.
I literally laughed out loud. I was like, wow.
I'm still sitting with it. Like it didn't like sideline me as much as I thought it would, but I'm just having to sit with it because it's a reminder to me that it doesn't matter how much we try to live by the rules, their rules, for how long, right? Like it didn't matter that I'd spent 35 plus years following the rules, doing everything that was asked, ticking all the boxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The minute I stand up and say, you know what? I'm not okay with that. The answer is no, thank you.
And they're like, fine, get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such an interesting response.
See you later, bye-bye.
People respond that way all the time, and it's fascinating.
So know that it's not easy what we're asking you to do. Know that we recognize that it's not easy or simple. Know that we understand when people in your life are going to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that we're going to always be standing here, encouraging you, believing in you, offering belonging to you that doesn't come with, I guess I do have one rule. Don't kill babies. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, assholes are not welcome in my space. But if you're not an asshole, I know. But I mean, that's the reality, is that there are really incredible, amazing people out here who will align with your values and align with your rules, who will see you for you and accept you as you.
Yep.
And so as you go through the process of reestablishing or establishing the rules that you want to live by, just remember that there are people out here who are ready to see, support, and love you, even as you go through kind of that shakeup and that transition, as those who can't or won't choose out, because they'd already chosen out. That's reality. They've already chosen out because they don't love you unless. So those are my thoughts. That's unfiltered Deb today, because I'm like, too many dreams are dying. I'll try not to shout. Too many dreams are dying. Too many people are still hiding. Too many people are still unsafe in our intimate circles as well as our societal circles.
And even there's a lot of people who feel like they're okay, that they're not living their happily epic after it.
No, they're living their mediocre ever after.
They're just like, well, life's this. They just resigned. So this is one more step in how you can live your happily epic after.
Mm-hmm.
So look at the rules. Challenge them.
Yeah.
Rewrite them if you need to. Keep the ones you want, get rid of the ones you don't want. But start making the changes. And as you do, you'll find that life is a lot better than it was.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing over here. It's so amazing. I know it looks like a mountain or wall you have to climb, but it's so amazing. It's delicious. So good. So good. So,
So with that,
anyway,
anything
thanks
last
for being
words?
here. No, just thanks for being
showing
here.
up. Thanks for watching this.
Yeah.
Remember
You're worth
to
finding your new rules. You're worth it.
like, subscribe, all the fun stuff around the video, so you get all the
Yes,
updates.
yes, yes.
And
Join
what
us.
I'd really like to hear, like in the comments, like probably below, right? What are rules wherever the comments are, wherever you're watching this, because they're everywhere.
Wherever they are, what do you want them to share?
What rules do you want to change? Maybe even if you don't feel like, oh, I want to change this rule in my life, that's cool. What category? Like, which one are you looking for? What's the top category you choose? What's that one area in your life you want to focus on? Let us help. Like, let us cheer you on.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
comment so we can do that, because if you don't,
We
can't
don't
read
know.
minds, and
Yeah.
we can't help. So
Yep.
let us know.
Okay.
Cool. Till next
All
week.
right. See you guys.
Bye.